Can you see me online now? There you go.
Fuck, dude. Why?
Shit.
Why are you gay?
Everyone.
I'm not.
Okay, let's see. Now I just create the output window projector.
Fuck, man, I need your mic, dude. Fuck.
You are live, by the way, on YouTube, so you
Awesome.
can change whenever you want to the countdown.
There you go. We'll change for the countdown with 5 minutes to go, or with.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
actually,
you
wait.
can-
I need to go. I need to run to the loop. I need to run. Actually, I'll start it now so that we can.
Yeah.
So that
5
we can do the
minutes will be
intros. We can do the intros and get the intros done by 8 o'clock sharp.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
can hear it talking on YouTube, by the way, on the still screen, so you might want to change to the countdown as soon as possible.
Oops.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to IRC Season 6, Round 5 at Circuit Paul Ricard. Good evening. My name is 8 Cylinders of Fury, and I'm your commentator for today, and I'm joined in the commentary box by fellow commentator and streamer Marinello Baby and Harshit Hari Rocks. Gentlemen, how are you doing this evening?
Doing great. Hi, 8 Cylinders. What's up with you, Mara?
Pretty good, Harry. Thank you for the introduction, 8 Cylinders. I'm looking forward to today. France has been a pretty exciting track for me in the past, and it's pretty wide. It's got a fair number of straights, so I'm looking forward to some good racing. What about you, 8 Cylinders?
I think France gets a lot of hate because of, well, I think the way that social media is these days. I think France as a track gets a lot of undue hate. But I think we should see some good racing on offer today. And speaking of the track itself, let's go ahead and jump into the track video. Circuit Paul Ricard sets the stage for round 5 at the French Grand Prix. Reintroduced to the F1 calendar in 2018, this 5.8 kilometer circuit is notable for its vivid tarmac runoffs, which wear down tires if track limits are abused, the unique narrow layout, and the mighty Mistral straight, and will prove to be a high-speed test for the drivers. Let's look at some noteworthy encounters during Season 5's race at Paul Ricard. The long double right at turn 11 will feature drivers taking a variety of lines to extract the most from their lap, leaving nothing on the table and most definitely leaving nothing to their opponents. Turns 12 and 13 will also see actions, with drivers approaching at high speed into a braking zone, pinching drivers into mistakes. And finally, the Verrières S at turn 1 will be a hotspot for overtaking, as drivers negotiate a fast chicane which will test their commitment and skill.
So that was Go ahead, 8 Cylinders.
Yeah, I was just going to say there was some great highlights from the race last year. A lot of elbows out racing, and I mean, Mara, you're no stranger to that, obviously, being in the driver's seat yourself. Anything you can tell us about France?
Yeah, I mean, track limits are going to be an issue here because there are a lot of sections where you can go wheel to wheel, but the game doesn't really support wheel to wheel racing, especially with these track limits through Sector 1. So hopefully at the end of the pit straight, if we do see some overtaking, there will be elbows out and you may see a car or two spinning out, but hopefully the drivers will keep it clean. But I think right now we need to focus on what the fastest way to go around this track really is. How about that?
Sounds good.
Yep, so let's jump into a hot lap, hot lap off Circuit Paul Ricard. Hey everyone, welcome to a hot lap of the glorious Circuit Paul Ricard, and we're riding on board Marinello Baby as we come through turn 1, cut as much of the inside as possible. Keep on this part of the track you have to stay just about within the white lines. I think I went a bit too wide over there on exit, but I think that's more or less okay. This is a very high speed corner. You chuck the car in, stay as close to the curb as possible to make sure that you get the best run onto probably the most important corner on the track, which is the long sweeping right hander followed by the kink left hander onto the straight. This is probably going to be the most high profile overtaking zone on the track, but as you come into the corner, you brake at about 75 meters, go through turn 9 onto the second, onto let's say the follow-up after the straight. I do not know for the life of me why this isn't a second DRS zone. It will be great to have a DRS zone right up to this point. This is a flat out right hander followed by the long sweeping turn 11 that again has multiple correct lines. Sector 3 is a very tricky sector with a lot of off-camber turns, and in the final corner you can use a cutback line, but I would recommend you stick to the inside as much as possible, maximize the track size. Don't actually clip the inside apex, because that'll give you a great run onto the start finish straight, which brings an end to your lap, which I hope is going to be pretty amazing.
Okay, it's just about time to get going in the session here. That hot lap was a 1:26.8. Brilliant lap there by our very own Mara. In terms of qualifying, how as we just about getting time to get into the session here, how important is it to get a clean lap together here?
It is important, but I wouldn't say it's as important as the likes of Monaco, France, because I think the main battle here is actually going to be ERS. So even if you're behind another car, as long as you can stick in the DRS and conserve some of your electrical deployment, you should stand yourself in good stead for the rest of the race, because this track does have a lot of straights, a lot of overtaking zones, and drivers do need to be strategic on when to deploy.
Would you say it's a challenge to follow cars around this circuit then, or would you say it's fairly easy?
Sector 1, yes, and Sector 1 is crucial because that is your main overtaking zone at the start of Sector 2. So yes, but in the other parts of the track, I wouldn't say it's too difficult to follow. Only Sector 1.
What have been your initial perceptions from this weekend so far? Any noteworthy drivers to keep an eye on?
Well, I would say Myth is quite fast, but there are people who are able to match to his pace. He's probably the fastest in Sector 1 in all of the practice sessions I've been in with these boys. And yeah, except for that, there's nothing much else. Eccentric is close on his heels. In Sector 2 and Sector 3, he was able to make up a lot of time. Um, there are a few people really favoring the soft to hard strategy, for example, and it's very crucial for them to make sure they take care of their tires during their quali laps, in laps, out laps. So it's crucial for their first stint. So other than that, nothing much to look out for at the moment. What's the weather prediction for the race?
I actually do not know for sure, but hopefully we should get that data on our screen shortly.
Yep, it just came past. It's a cloudy session with a little bit of sun towards the end of the race, but
So we're looking for a dry quali and race?
yes, it's a dry quali and dry race according to the weather forecast.
Yep. We have a few returning drivers this week. I think Tanish is back from a short break, and also one of the Haas drivers from last season who's now sitting proud in the Williams. Oxygen, he's been a prominent driver for many seasons. He's making his first appearance this season, and hopefully we'll see him get off to a belter of a start.
Yes, absolutely. He was also putting in a few laps and getting himself warmed up. Let's see. It's going to be interesting to see how he does in today's race.
Yep, of course.
If we look at our championship standings right now, Eccentric just has a narrow sliver of a lead over Moto in second place, 47 points to Eccentric, 40 to Moto, and Procco, who had an iffy race last weekend at Bahrain, is currently sitting third in 35, and Myth, the driver who we were just briefly mentioning earlier, is currently down the table 10 points behind in 25. So a lot of drivers have a point to prove this time around at France.
Yep, definitely.
Absolutely. It'll be one to watch out for down this back straight into the chicane. That's a major overtaking zone, if I'm not wrong, and there will be quite a few elbows out moves over there. And last season saw quite a few eventful moves down that around that chicane. We had Propi, for example, spin out and abnormally bring a safety car on a track like this. So let's see how interesting it gets this race.
Yep. We have a spun Moto as we say that as we talk about his championship possibilities. We have a spun Moto. I think that's Sector 1 oh my god, that was a bit dangerous with the Red Bull coming through. But Black Sheep sets the first fastest lap of 1:29.7. I do not think that's a very representative time. I know for a fact Black Sheep can go a bit faster than that. But yeah, I'm surprised to see him putting a lap on the medium so early in the session.
Must be his banker laps because he, on the contrary, looked quite strongly. He was thinking about the soft hards, but let's see if this weather prediction has changed anything, because it's brought down the track temperatures a lot. It's cloudy.
Yep.
So will be
Cylinders,
quite different.
what do you think, 8 cylinders? I mean, we'll see a lot of drivers qualifying on the softs, but do you expect them to actually put a banker in on their mediums? Because I'm pretty sure that they may want 2 fresh sets of mediums for the race. What do you think is the approach, or what's going on in the drivers' heads right now?
I mean, a banker lap would allow them to get an idea of what the performance are on 2 separate sets of tires. I mean, mediums obviously represents an opportunity. If you do carry the pace on the mediums, it allows you to go for one of the mediums to hards or the hard to medium strategy in the race. But obviously, the soft tires would provide the best pace for most of the drivers not really confident. So it's going to be interesting to see. I feel like the faster drivers might look to qualify on the medium tire to see if they can maybe stand a better chance in terms of race strategy. But I think we have a lot of flexibility here in terms of strategy. So it's going to be interesting to see.
Yep, I mean, we have a lot of drivers putting some rubber down. I'm pretty sure they aren't going for quali laps immediately, but you can see the likes of Myth, Eccentric, Moto have all been out on soft tires, probably to just put some tire down on the racing line, or some rubber down on the racing line. But coming back to the original thought, do you think that we may see people holding off from using the mediums in quali even for a banker, because we all know how useful it is to have 2 fresh sets for the race? Do you expect that to be a factor, or do you think drivers would be okay with 1 or 2 laps of wear on the medium tires?
Well, if you look at it, it's an unpopular two-stop strategy of softs to mediums. And I don't think if you have the outright pace to actually cover up for those multiple pit stops, that's 2 pit stops, you would really be thinking about that, or if you have an incident or a safety car. So, not really that important. 1 fresh set might be more than enough, in my opinion, and looks like that's what it should be, because this one stopper is the most favorite strategy. Oh, that
we
was
have
close.
we have actually glossed over a major talking point at Paul Ricard. That is the pit exit and the start finish straight have a lot of sort of the pit exit comes directly onto the racing line for the straight, and it's so close to the corner. Yeah, you just saw a classic example of that right here.
Yeah, that was really close.
There was a case of major overlap between the racing line and the actual pit exit itself. Yeah, I think we see that at a couple of other tracks. We see it at Vietnam as well, but I think it's more obvious here than it is anywhere else.
Precisely. I mean, just imagine Monaco with the turn into what's the turn 1 called in Monaco? I'm losing my mind. Anyway, into turn 1, if that first corner wasn't there and the track just went right, without any curb, you would essentially make a lot of contact with drivers coming out of the pits. And France is notorious for that. I do expect the cars who just came out of the pits to have to answer to the stewards. That is not going to be kindly looked upon, because now Prakhar, not only has he invalidated the lap, he's also burned out an extra pair of soft tires, put an extra lap of wear on them, because he could not put in a representative lap this time around.
But he seems to be going for it again.
Yep.
Is he starting another lap? Yes, he is. He's doing a second lap on the same set of... He's on a third lap on the same set of softs.
I just want to call out though, his ERS is at like 8%. I don't think he's actually...
He's in. Must be banker laps, getting himself warmed up. Tropy has done a 27.9. He seems to have gone on a decent lap, first lap. And talking about track evolution, this is the first track I noticed track evolution on last season when in Tier 2, for me especially. Yeah, track evolution should be quite OP. The last few laps will be more representative for us.
I think Prakhar has made a mistake on his lap somewhere. He is not quite happy with... Yep, he has made a mistake there. He was going pretty well, even though he was low on ERS. I think he was pushing because definitely his ERS wasn't charging. But yeah, he made a mistake there on the back straight.
Yep, you see him taking a bit of the Ricardo line to avoid the cars going through.
Yeah, on the topic of Paul Ricard, because it's been kind of polarizing in the last couple of years on the reason that, you know, with all these runoff areas. There's not much as a skill coefficient involved anymore. It's like you drivers have too much liberty to push the limits, and if they can't find it, then obviously the only thing they suffer is a set of ruined tires. What are your thoughts on that, gentlemen?
Harry, why don't you go?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think it promotes more of wheel-to-wheel racing. Obviously, in this game, we can't really push a driver off because you're gonna end up giving that driver a warning or a penalty, etc. But it helps to have more racing, wheel-to-wheel racing. But what you said in terms of a driver's skill, maybe yeah, that might be possible. Because you can push and you won't be punished for a mistake. Whereas in real life, if you actually notice, if you go onto the runoff areas, the blue and the red strips actually are abrasive, more abrasive, and they kill your tires and take out a lot of life from your tires. So I'm not really sure if the game does that, but that is in a way trying to neutralize the effect you were talking about, 8 cylinders.
Yeah, but as we say that, just a quick update. Kaushik Timala has gone off in Sector 2, and he's completely lost his entire front wing. So yeah, it's probably a shame because he was on his medium run, which pretty much ruins his plan for quali, I'm sure.
Well, don't you think you can push the mediums for 2 laps in quali because of it having more tire life compared to a softs, obviously?
Yeah, but in my experience, a medium takes 1 lap to probably get into the right temperature. So your first lap is never actually a best lap. So, but now he's got to go out and do it all over again. But 8 cylinders, I mean, you can write down from P7 to P15. No one has actually set a valid lap. And we were talking about track limits earlier. Do you think it's because of track limits, or do you think because it's just people not wanting to put a representative time too early?
I think we've discussed it in previous races as well, and I think you mentioned it in Bahrain, is that I think for the first couple of minutes of every session, drivers are just getting a feel for the track. I mean, some drivers have put in a lot of effort into perfecting their setup, perfecting their strategy. They've been doing a lot of practice through the week, but obviously some drivers, not many, but some drivers do come into the race weekend and they don't necessarily have they don't have a full grasp of the track. So they just go out, maybe spend a couple of laps, acclimatizing themselves to the track itself. And I mean, also track limits are there to blame. Obviously, when you're pushing the limits in a track like Paul Ricard, making the most of every inch of road is important. So yeah, there's a number of factors involved, but I don't think it's much to worry about. But with the time running out, I think now they should be thinking about putting in those laps, if not at least a banker lap.
Yeah, I mean, we can't really call it early in the session any longer because it's pretty much 5 minutes to go. So now they have to strap on their final set of tires. And as we say that, Baby Tsunoda puts in a decent lap, 1:29.2. He won't be too happy with that though. For now, Propi is running incredibly strong up in P1. I genuinely feel the likes of Eccentric, Myth, Prakhar, Moto maybe cutting their luck a bit too close, because if they invalidate their final run, they are done. They are done. They will be starting from the back.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And just pointing it out, it's a Red Bull 1-2 at the moment. Strong for them. But yeah, I'm sure that the likes of Eccentric, Prakhar, Myth, Moto, even Tanish or anyone who have not set a lap, they're all quite strong contenders for the top spots on the grid. So let's see if they get unlucky or lucky in their final runs. Someone going straight across the track.
As we say that the Mercedes behind him does the same thing.
I mean, with so many track limits, with so much space beyond track limits, I mean, there's no real problem of getting in another driver's way. So you can just go as wide as you really want to, and then join back.
Yep.
With the absence of gravel and whatnot, it's not really as big an issue as, say, Monza, for example.
Exactly, but I have to be honest. Last season in France during quali, my race was pretty much ruined. Or it wasn't ruined, but my quali was ruined because I tried sort of cutting that corner to make it across, just to minimize the track distance and all of that. The same thing these drivers did, and I got this and the next lap invalidated. So here I was, and that happened 2 times in a row. And this track is, because of the criticism about this track and the track limits and all of that, Codemasters have actually really clamped down on drivers going off track to minimize the track distance in quali, or on out laps or on banker laps or whatever it is. So yeah, I don't know if these drivers are being invalidated, but I hope that their quali isn't really compromised.
All the drivers from P9 downwards still have not set a lap. A couple of them on a flying lap right now, but we'll see if they can get in a lap here, at least a banker lap, before the end of qualifying. Ideally, they have another 2 laps, if including the lap that they're on right now. Out lap included, they probably have another lap if they're lucky. It'll be very tight if drivers choose not to set a flying lap now, or choose to set a flying lap in the dying moments of qualifying. But right now,
And
as it
they've
stands,
all.
yeah.
Sorry to cut you off, but then surprisingly, most of the guys who've not set a lap at all have all gone onto the mediums to set a lap on the mediums. That's odd, because
The mindset there is that I think maybe, I don't want to make presumptions right off the bat, but I think it may be down to the fact that they want to start outside the top 10. I don't really want to make presumptions because, of course, it's always objective in qualifying to go as fast as possible. But if they're going on to the medium tires now, either they see themselves carrying a lot of pace on the medium tire and they see the medium tire as being faster at this stage in qualifying, or they see themselves starting a little outside the top 10, and then it makes sense to start on the medium tires in the race.
well,
Yep, definitely. And as we say that, all of the championship contenders are on medium tires, so that seems to be the strategy to go for. Eccentric has put in a valid lap, which is a 128.5. Surprisingly, that's actually slower than Wilster G, and Wilster showed some great pace in Bahrain, so that seems to be carrying on to France as well. Eccentric will probably do one cool down lap, and Myth has a bit of a tank slapper going onto the straight on the most important corner on the track. He actually has a huge tank slapper, and he's backed off.
he might be going for another lap. Yes, he just might have time to go for another lap.
I think he definitely does.
Yes.
The two Red Bulls at the top of the timing sheets have been separated by Black Sheep, who's put in a good lap, the 128.1. Eccentric currently in P4. Championship contenders not really pushing the limits here in qualifying today thus far. We've seen 3 championship leaders right now, 1, 2, and 3, currently sitting in 4, 6, and 14th. So it should be interesting going into the race. You should be seeing a lot of overtakes then. These guys are on the offensive.
This is starting out to be 2012 all over again.
I was just gonna tell that interesting, and for every race it keeps changing the contenders and the way it goes, keeping us on our toes.
I mean, that also shows that just how many good drivers are there in Tier 1 right now. It just seems to be a very level playing field. No one driver seems to have a massive advantage over the rest of the field. As the Williams goes very side with Eccentric, making a mistake, just coming out.
So, and Myth has left the session.
And that's
gonna be even worse. That's gonna put.
Most
Has he
importantly,
retired?
he hasn't. I know he's just left the session. He's had a disconnection, and this is going to really hurt his chances because he was on an out lap right now. I'm going to try getting him back into the session, but I can't even see him online. Either his PC crashed or he's lost net connectivity. But Harry, could you do the honors of trying to get Myth back into the session?
Yes. Give me a second. I'll be right back.
And we've lost 2 championship contenders within about 2 seconds. So let's go on to, and Moto has set a representative time on the mediums, which is a 128.8, and that seems to be his quali over. Who else do you think is on a valid lap, 8 cylinders?
I think right now Helium may be on a fast lap. I think he's just... if we could maybe switch to the full circuit map, maybe we'll have a better idea.
I knew I was missing something. There we go.
There we go. I think, Helium's just coming through the final sector now. He might be on a fast lap here. Yep, he definitely is. Helium, where will he
I
finish?
think it's going to be 128. Yep, 128.2.
Oh, pushes him right up to third place, a 128.2 from him, yep. That seems to be the pace on the soft tires right now. High 128s. Low 128s, high 127s.
Yep. We've got a very packed bunch up front, and all of them, right from Propi, Black Sheep, Helium, Wilster. I mean, you just remember the battle between Black Sheep and Wilster in Bahrain. But crucially, Wilster seems to be the best placed man on the grid right now, with those medium tires up in P4.
Definitely so. And also, right at the dying stages of qualifying there, Aditya, the other Mercedes driver, just put in a great lap, a 128.5, which shot him right up from about P12, P13 to P6. And if there are any championship contenders right now who are thinking about fighting for the win today, they have a lot of good drivers ahead of them. So it's going to be a very entertaining race for us here in the commentary box. So that is, I think, the end of qualifying. So we should have, we should have a look at our timing tree here in just a second. And I think that means no more pro player is on pole position with a massive 127.9 in comparison to last season. There was a 127.9 as well. So very equal lap times between last season and this season. Black Sheep is in P2, Helium P3, Wilster P4, Baby Sonoda in P5, Aditya in P6, Eccentric Championship leader in P7 on the medium tires, and Motomoto in P9, Shalalurk in P8, my apologies, Oxygen P10, and the rest of the drivers did not set a lap. Oh, Anhydrous did, but the drivers from P11 to P16 did not set a lap at all in qualifying. Interesting.
Yep, that is... no sign of Myth just yet. It looks like the race is going to go ahead without him. That's not going to hurt that's not going to help his championship. But another driver, and this driver had a brilliant race in Bahrain up to a certain point, Prakhar, has chosen to start from the back yet again. He seems to be really enjoying the season, taking it a bit, doing his last question mark challenges. But it worked out well for him in Bahrain. Let's actually see what tires people are opting for. Myth is going to be pretty cheesed off that he can't choose the hard tires because the game will put him onto the mediums. But I do expect the likes of Kapil, Prakhar, Tanish to go onto the hard tires, and those drivers are the drivers to watch out for.
Is there a realistic possibility of drivers going out on the two-stop outside the top 10? Is that a realistic possibility?
Well, I think you need to have, like I said earlier, you need to have the outright pace, and you should also be able to make those moves and make your way up the grid. If you can't really do that within your first stint, let's say on the softs, if you start, and if you can't make those moves within your first stint, you're gonna start dropping back, because then you'll have to make another 2 stops, and you have a lot of time to catch up. So you could possibly fight for points, but I don't think you can really fight for podiums or wins with that strategy if you're outside the top 10.
I mean, the strategy just seems a little bit more viable for the faster drivers, the likes of Eccentric, Myth, and Prakhar, who are starting outside the top 10 today and considerably far away from the podium positions. If they can carry that pace for large amounts of their first and second stints, then, I mean, it's viable. It's not the recommended strategy, but it's something they'll be weighing on their minds, especially if there is a safety car somewhere during the course of the race.
So a quick update on Myth. He had some technical issues, and it looks like he might not even make it to the race now. That's really sad, considering he was one of our championship contenders.
Yep, bad luck is bad luck. Technical issues, engine failures, they happen. We've seen drivers win championships in spite of that. But either way, we're off. We're off with a very mixed grid, I would say. An extremely mixed grid. A Red Bull on pole. We've seen that happen we expected that to happen in real life in Imola, but at least we get to see it in France in IRC.
Absolutely. And Mara, help me out, but I think last season also Propi was on pole. I don't want to jinx him, but he was on pole. He was driving for the McLaren last season, and
so Propi as a driver has always been the kind to minimize risk and to maximize sort of to minimize the chance of lap 1 incidents, and because he's a very, very clean driver and he's very respectful, and respectful drivers and nice guys get bullied sometimes. So I completely respect his decision to start on pole, but Black Sheep's no slouch either, so we should see a very competitive start. I do expect Wilster to drop back a little bit, but I think once his tires get up to temperature of the soft runners, he will take off too pretty quickly.
Was just starting on the softs or the mediums?
He's on the mediums.
Oh, excellent. That's P4 on mediums.
Sorry, I'm so sorry.
Yeah,
I am stupid. I know it's not Baku, it's cylinders, but I am stupid.
Yeah, that was, and he's gotten disqualified. Sherlock. He is on the softs. Okay, not that big a problem.
Just getting
All right.
disqualified before the race start.
Touching
No.
the other guys. So if you come into contact with another driver during your formation lap, that's what the game does to you. It punishes you with a disqualification, sends you back to the grid, makes you sit on the grid and cool down your tires and brakes. They become ice cold. So turn 1 is going to be a nightmare.
You remove them from the race, does it? Hopefully not.
No, that wouldn't do that.
That would be harsh.
That would be too harsh.
Exactly.
Tropy surprisingly does his formation lap really fast, and he's already sitting on the grid, whereas the people in P15 and 16 are yet to come up.
I think
On
he's
the final
very
turn.
excited and he's got adrenaline in his veins right now, because we were talking to him a little before qualifying. He was not expecting to do. In his mind, he was not expecting to do this well in qualifying. But I think he's just a little bit giddy right now from
Yep.
being where he is.
The drivers are lining up. 8 cylinders. Take us through the start. We don't want to miss a thing.
Well, I do not want to miss a thing either, so I'll try to tell you to the best of my abilities what is happening. We should be getting the lights out sequence as the remaining cars on the grid are just lining up here. A couple of final.
Do we have a small glitch?
This was an issue in 2019. I think it gets refreshed after a couple of seconds. Hopefully we won't need a lobby restart. We just need to wait a short while for the lights to go out. Who knows? There may be a hazard on track, so the FIA,
Marshals.
the marshals are just sort of giving us a few seconds to get the track cleared out. Let's try and make this realistic.
The attention to realism in these games is amazing.
Well, time to start a second formation lap. Come on. Like we did in Imola, if I'm right.
Well, last season in France, we had a certain Ferrari driver stay on the grid for the
no.
entirety of the race in Tier 2.
I think I am glitched out for them for some reason. I can't leave because I'm the host. This is a brilliant situation to be in.
Okay, Kapil. I think in the game, if you wait like about 30 seconds, they tend to refresh the queue. So I think we probably give it a few seconds before we go again. But
Okay, let's see.
yeah, thanks for the update.
How funny would it be if Couple had joined in here and it had gone lights out in the race? I mean, he's starting last, but still, it would be pretty funny to see.
Well, last season Tier 2 race, I was stuck on the grid. Right now, it looks like the whole grid is stuck for some time.
I think I was in the commentary box for the Tier 2 race last season, and Harry was literally sitting in his grid box for the entirety of the race, 8 cylinders, while the cars kept going past him. Just kept going past him. He was stuck in the grid slot for 30 odd laps, for 27 laps.
Oh my god.
Yep, and I haven't lost an opportunity to remind Harry of that occasion, so this is honestly perfect for me.
Oh no.
That is.
It was sad to see.
Isn't it?
And guess where I was starting with my pace? With a fluke in that race, I was able to get a P2 or P3, I think, in quali. So yeah, that's racing for us, especially online sim racing with Codemasters.
Folks, I think with the way things are going, there may be a restart called. If Couple has glitched out, then we would need probably to restart the lobby. Let me, Harry, would you mind checking with some of the folks and getting back to us?
Sure, I'll be right back.
Thank you. As we say that, we can see Couple has left the session, which means a lobby is being restarted, folks. Yeah.
This will also mean that all the drivers will be allowed to start on whatever tires they prefer because it'll be a custom grid.
Yep. I am so sorry, guys. I am so sorry. I think my game has crashed now. That's fantastic. Something has gone wrong with F1 2020 majorly in the last couple of minutes.
It isn't.
Yep,
It isn't
and
an
an
F1.
update. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a restart. They have started the race in that particular lobby, but I guess it's gonna be a restart. Couple can confirm.
I'm not sure that was required.
Required. They had a bug lobby. So the moment the host leaves and there's a migrating host, the lobby gets bugged most of the times, and that would need a restart.
Okay,
That
would appreciate one of your help for reordering the grid. Okay, maybe I'll take this somewhere else, but yeah.
I think it's pretty funny. It reminds me of from the days of RL, Mara, if you remember.
Yep.
Back in those days, F1 it wasn't. I mean, F1 2019 was all right, but there were still server issues here and there. And I remember once we started a race at Austria, and only after 5 laps did I realize after I was in P1 that I was actually in a lobby all on my own against AI drivers, because it just seemed to me that I was not that fast, and yet I was going past people like they were standing still. So then I realized that the lobby was glitched, and by the time I joined back in the actual race, I was in P17, and it was just pretty dreary for the rest of the race for me.
Yep. I can imagine. I think I vaguely remember this. That was a fun season. I think F1 2019 and F1 2020 have a lot of similar bugs. I think the grass is always green on the other side, but 2019 had its pros, but 2020. But what I don't understand is that league racing is probably the biggest or the most important user base and the most consistent user base for the F1 game globally. Yes, I know they say that offline modes are the most important to them, but a lot of these online glitches could be solved with instead of using P2P if they use dedicated instead. I know it takes a bit more time to set up, but if you're running a league, then I'm sure that people would take the time to set up a dedicated server if required.
I mean, that is the case with Assetto Corsa ACC. I mean, these games all use dedicated servers, and while it is a little bit more tedious to set the server up, you've got that sort of safe infrastructure to work from, and you can control obviously various aspects of it. So
Precisely.
when you give freedom to people to make their own servers, you also you take away responsibility from yourself for having to host all these servers. But with the new ownership of Codemasters, of course, with EA coming into the whole picture, I guess that changes things, because, I mean, while EA have not been very colourful in terms of their own servers with FIFA and various other games that they've made, not having the greatest servers in the world, but still, those games are very multiplayer based as well, and they seem to have pretty good server stability. Yep. So
exactly, and the only reason people are actually getting frustrated is not because the game is a bad game to drive. That it couldn't be further from the truth. It's just that you put in a week's worth of practice, and it all goes. I mean, look at your Austria race. It's a prime example of that. You probably practiced for a week, and on the morning of the race, you face an issue where you basically get no points. Potentially, I don't know exactly what happened with you there, but yeah, it is frustrating at times. But on exciting news, we are getting myth back for the restart.
That is good. Yeah, that is good news. In many ways, then the lobby restart is a godsend for him with his technical issue. That's worked out well for him, and we also will see mostly a full grid, because those drivers who did have issues first time around will basically get a clean slate, not only in terms of tire strategy, but also in terms of obviously where they start.
Yep. Harry, 8 Cylinders, would you mind taking over for a brief second? Is Harry still here with us? He's been quiet for
It's just me for now, I think.
Okay.
Because Harry's helping a couple with setting up the server.
Yes. And actually, Masoom has said my game volume is a bit too loud. So what I'm going to do is increase my volume a little bit and reduce the in-game volume slightly, just for your benefit. I actually have to deal with an emergency right now, so I'm going to be back in about a minute or two. Can you hold the fort?
I will try my best.
You're going to be talking to yourself, but I'm sure you'll enjoy it.
I'll be interacting with the chat. Let's see what people have to say.
Yeah. Catch you in a couple of minutes.
Good evening to everyone in the chat. Do apology if you are just joining us. We currently have a lobby restart. If you did miss qualifying, no more pro player has qualified in pole position, and of course, Black Sheep in second, Wilster in fourth. A couple of other drivers, Helium in P3, Aditya, his teammate, P6. These are some of the noteworthy drivers from qualifying. Obviously, we are currently undergoing some technical difficulties on our side. There seems to be a lobby restart occurring, so we should be back in a moment. So let's have a couple of predictions from the chat here as to and I think Harry has rejoined us.
Hello, welcome back. So we are gonna restart. We have Myth also back. Good stuff for Haas and for me as well because I'm Haas tier 2. Yay!
It works out well for you guys then. Black Sheep. Oh, I'm sorry. Adil has temporarily taken a leave of absence due to an emergency, so it's just us two for now.
Oh,
He has also not switched over to the session yet. So if the session does start while Mara is unavailable, then it's going to be a problem.
we will have to wait.
I think, yeah. I was just interacting with some people in the chat.
Oh, take me through it. What's happening in the chat? That's quite a nice place to be at when we are off the race.
I mean, a lot of people have talked about the track limits. A lot of people have talked about the commentary lineup for today. Thank you very much to everyone who's talking about the commentary. We're just a couple of guys with a little bit of free time on our hands. A lot of guys saying, come on, Red Bull. A lot of support for PP and Wilster here today, this weekend at France.
Yeah, they're quite a strong team. I would say underrated team. Wilster is known as the no ERS boy, at least when he was in tier 2 last season, because he would never use his ERS but still be among the top front runners. So you can tell what his pace is.
And that's testament to his pace. Yeah, that he's very fast if he's not using the ERS at all. So have you got any funny stories from? I mean, obviously Mara's talked about one before, but have you got any funny stories from a disconnect point of view? Obviously, I talked about one when you were not here. And do you have any more to share while we are still waiting for the session to go live?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if this will be funny though, but while streaming tier 2 last season, Couple was the host just like today. And what had happened is I think he glitched out, and what that caused him to be stuck in the pits, where he was stuck on a McLaren the whole race, and it was a weird camera angle as well, and he was stuck between the pit crew. Have you noticed what it is like when you retire and you're in the pits in a quali session? You'll be inside the pits with the crew member sitting in front of you.
Yeah. You're in your garage. Yeah.
So he had to do that for the whole race, and
wow.
yeah, that happened.
Wow.
We can give radio. Back in the day when television wasn't available, things used to be live broadcasted on radio, where commentators used to commentate on races and cricket.
We're gonna go back to the early days of Formula One commentary.
Yeah, temporarily that's gonna be the way we do it.
We do apologize to everyone in chat if you're wondering, if you're just joined and wondering what is happening. This is still Tier 1 race. We have a lobby restart, but unfortunately Mara, our streamer, has currently dealing with an emergency on his side, so he briefly took a leave of absence.
I am back just in time for the race start, folks.
We were just contemplating the idea of doing radio commentary for the Formula One start had you not rejoined us.
I wouldn't miss the start for anything in the world.
Well,
all is resolved on your side, Mara.
Yep. I bought myself a glass of lemonade on the way back, and I'm good to go for the entirety of the race.
Excellent. Now we're back in full strength, and yeah, we were sharing funny stories of disconnections in France last season. Mara, mine topping the charts, obviously.
Yep. I hope to see the lone Ferrari actually get off the grid this time. Oh no, not the lone Ferrari. Sorry, there are two Ferraris on the grid, Acid and Prokhar. Um, but yeah, what do you think, Harry? Do you think the Ferraris are going to get past turn one?
Well, definitely, because taking into the fact, considering the fact that P14, that's Prokhar Watts, is actually a championship contender, he should be making up a lot of places. I'm excited to see how his start is going to be. Myth is
Also,
back as
I've just
well.
realized- I'm sorry to
Sorry.
interrupt you, Harry, but I realized that I'm outnumbered in this commentary box by 2 Ferrari fans. Just realized.
And you are a.
I'm a Mercedes fan.
So,
Who's that?
Aetzildus, what do you think of this season? Because everyone, I mean, the F1 community is kind of split that the Red Bull is faster, but that Max is faster, but Max is pulling the Red Bull above the Mercedes, but the Mercedes is faster on raw pace. Where do you stand in that argument?
Well, even as a Mercedes fan, I want more competitiveness in F1. I want there to be different drivers competing for race wins. I mean, regardless of how big a fan of you might be of Mercedes or Lewis Hamilton, I think there's an argument there where F1 is only an entertaining, or any sport is only entertaining as long as there is competitiveness. So I welcome the challenge of other teams and other drivers wanting to compete at the top. I think McLaren making a surge up the constructors, being a real force to be reckoned with. I think at the tail end of last season, beginning of this season as well. So I'm welcome, and I'm welcoming this competition with open arms. And I also, on the topic of Ferrari, I want to see Ferrari also contesting at the top once again. It's been a while since I've seen Ferraris in the lead.
Yep.
Not firing any shots, obviously. I'm just saying that I enjoyed sort of Charles Leclerc and Sebastian fighting at the front alongside other drivers. So I want to see competitive Formula One more than anything, even though I am a fan of Mercedes and I do enjoy
Exactly.
them.
I think the extended diffuser design of the McLaren is really helping them right now, but it's not a difficult concept to emulate, and I do feel that the Ferrari will pick up on that pretty soon, and the battle for P3 and 4 is going to be quite close in the constructors. But that being said, real life comes second, IRC comes first, as always, and 8 cylinders for the second time take us through the start. Hopefully this time we have 5 lights, and we do have 5 lights this time.
Oh, the lights are counting down. We have 5 lights. And away we go. No More Pro Player leads away the rest of the pack as we do get underway here. Gets a fairly good start. There's a Mercedes challenging for P2 here. Not going to look at the timing tree. I think that's just going to confuse me. Pro Player leads into the S's coming down through Sector 1 here. There seems to have been... Black Sheep has already lost a position. There's been a little squabble at the back here. A couple of cars spinning in the background. I think Anhydrous may have been one of the cars involved there. Looks like an Alfa Romeo as well may have been involved. Definitely a very topsy-turvy start for a lot of drivers there. A lot of positions already being exchanged. And I think you may have jinxed both Ferrari drivers there because they seem to have had an absolutely terrible start from that start. But No More Pro Player already putting some time between the drivers here, the rest of the drivers behind him, as he just knocks the bollard over on the chicane. But yes, Black Sheep has, I think, lost a position at the start. Wolfster seems to have retained his position. But Helium has made up a couple of positions as well.
Yep. I think the biggest gainers from the start are Tarnish and Myth on those hard tires all the way from the back. They are now running P6 and P7.
That's a huge jump. And that turn 1 incident was an unfortunate touch with a Williams and a Merc. The second Merc in P14, Aditya, was sideways and caused multiple collisions and pileups into turn 1, turn 2, the chicane. Hence all of that confusion.
Yeah, I do apologize for my camera work at the start. The grid had pretty much been shuffled by the game. So I really did not know what the right order was. But we have a few cars pitting. We have Baby Sonoda in the pits. We have Charles Leclerc in the pits. We have Kapil, Aditya, and Moto, all pitting on lap 1. And I think this continues the lack of or the bad luck that Moto has had on lap 1 from Bahrain to France as well. And they are now probably going to be half a lap down going into lap 2 right now. So they've got a mountain to climb.
And
They have
on the
yep.
sorry over there, acid. Sorry, 8 cylinders. Go ahead.
It's all right. Go ahead. Now I'm done. You can go.
Yeah. So I was telling, I did not jinx my Ferrari boys. They seem to have done quite well. They've avoided the collision mainly, those that pile up in turn 1, 2, and they're running quite solid, one behind the other. And yeah, let's see how it goes for them from here. A double-headed arrow through the field, maybe.
Tell you what,
Team orders?
Helium is
Question
right
mark?
on. Team orders? Question mark. We'll
Ferrari?
look into that a little bit further. But Helium is right now sitting right on Pro P's diffuser right now, 6/10 within 6/10. So Pro P not quite in the clear just yet. Definitely, as you mentioned, Mara, a little earlier during qualifying, it's it's easy for drivers to follow each other through here, especially, and it's very important through turn 1. Helium's doing a good job of keeping up with Pro P here as we do start lap 3, so DRS should be activated from this lap onwards, as this prompt comes up there on your screen.
Yep.
Pro P currently the fastest man on track.
Exactly, and that being now, there's a DRS train going down from P1 to P5. This is going to be an exciting first stint. What is the pit gap for the soft tires? Do you know anything about that, folks?
Pit gap as in?
Pit window, sorry. What's the pit window
Pit
for the
window,
soft tires?
Yeah. The soft tires should pit anywhere ranging from lap 7 to lap 8. So basically within lap 7 and 8, you will see all the soft runners pitting. But since we had a lobby restart, I'm guessing it might get delayed by a lap or 2, because they have nil tire wear at the start. And Moto has retired.
He's retired in the pits. I think he's had enough. He's frustrated. And yeah, I think that's a shame to lose the AlphaTauri driver from the race itself.
And a championship contender as well, very important to note.
Well, we've traded in Moto for Myth. I mean, that's not really what we wanted, is it?
Nah, not at all. We wanted that battle right up there.
It's unfortunate for Moto there. He was we did have strong hopes for him cutting through the field, but obviously no chance of that happening right now. One thing is, keep an eye on Danish. Of course, he's a returning driver. One would say he's a little bit rusty from being away from the game for so long, but he's definitely carrying the pace right now in P7 on the hard tires as well, finding himself in a great position.
Yes, he's getting pulled along with Myth, sticking with Myth through the DRS, and technically they are on the hards, so they should be looking at the long game, because any kind of incidents at this point of the race is going to be very negative in terms of their the bigger picture of the race itself. But let's wait and watch what happens. And the sole medium runner in the top 5 at least is Eccentric, the championship leader, and he hasn't really dropped off from the soft runners. If you notice, he's sticking back with them on that DRS train, and if he can keep this up, it's going to be quite interesting to see how his strategy helps him.
Yep, I mean, he's probably playing the patient game right now because he knows the guys in front will drop off sooner or later. And as we say that, Wilster has a huge moment coming out of turn 13? Yeah, turn 13. And Eccentric gains 1 position, so being a great opportunist over the most minor mistakes. So great stuff from the Williams.
Yeah,
How
and
strong are Mitt's possibilities right now of holding off the drivers behind him and just staying comfy in that P6 sort of P7 range right now? Because if he can retain the pace until these guys' tires start to drop off a little bit, that's definitely a strong chance for him to move a little further up the field.
Yeah, for the first 4 laps, the hot tires are actually, I'm trying to find a polite word for ridiculous. They're genuinely bad. But I think from laps 7 or 8, we will see Myth and Tanish start to rein in a few other drivers. Eccentric is at a crucial point in his race where he absolutely needs to pull out a gap to Myth and Tanish right now, because Myth and Tanish are in prime position for P1 and 2, according to me, as long as there isn't any safety car.
And Tanish seems to be on pace with Myth and staying in his DRS. So yeah, this seems to be a battle for the podium, possibly.
I think it's like I said, P1 and 2 for me, but
Oh.
all depends on how quickly Eccentric can navigate through the soft runners.
All right, I'll be keeping an eye on their gaps between Myth and Eccentric. Tanish, keep seeing their lap times. We'll give you updates if any.
I think right now the Ferrari drivers are really helping each other, staying very close to each other. Rocket and Hydras just on the outskirts at the top 10 here. They seem to be helping each other out, staying within each other's DRS. Oh, you can't stay within each other's DRS, but giving each other DRS, and they're not really losing much time to the drivers ahead. The biggest gap right now seems to be between Myth and Wilster, and I mean that's a little obvious because on the soft tires the drivers ahead are starting to pull away, but that delta is only going to come down as the laps progress.
As you say that, I think it was the last lap that the delta actually stabilized, and we do expect Myth to start reining in the gap to the front runners right now. So it's go time for Eccentric. Before Myth can catch up, he needs to yeet into the distance.
Yeah, and similarly, I think it's important equally for Procker and Acid as well, the Ferrari boys, to make moves, because the gap between Kaushik and Tanish is quite big, and that gap isn't going to help them in their chances of thinking about getting to the podium, especially for the likes of Procker, who's on the hards, on the alternate strategy, and in the championship fight. He needs to get there. And Myth has closed the gap to Wilster by a couple of tenths. It was about 3.1, and now it's coming down slowly because we are already at lap 6, and maybe in a couple of laps, maybe by lap 9 max, the soft runner should be pitting.
And mounting a move there on Black Sheep, run down to turn 1, who runs a little bit wide. Will he retain the inside? He does, but eventually Black Sheep does keep it held on around the outside, and he does keep the position.
More importantly, Eccentric is killing his ERS reserve, trying to get past the McLaren.
That will prove costly.
I don't really know why Eccentric is going for the overtake right now, because there's logic in that he's trying to push the guys on softs to go a little faster so that he's going to get the overtake done here. But again, I feel like he can only compromise his position by putting himself ahead of faster drivers, forcing himself to go even faster. Maybe that's motivation for him to go a little faster and pick up the pace. But I mean, I don't understand the logic behind that completely.
Yeah, and Mara, correct me if I'm wrong, but out of your experience, isn't it tough to harvest ERS again in this circuit because of the number of heavy braking zones being quite low? I think there's hardly 1, 2.
Yeah, it's not just about that. I think Sector 3 you do have a lot of braking, but you're right. It's more about this game. If your ERS drops below like 30%, you start really struggling to regenerate. As we have the first of the soft runners pitting, actually 2 soft runners pitting, Wilster and Black Sheep. Will the other 2, Propy and Helium, react on the next lap, do you think? Or do you think that they're actually going to wait a bit longer?
Well, I'm guessing they should actually pull it, because the undercut is, especially on the soft hard strategy, the undercut is what is more powerful. But for the medium hard, the people on the mediums, for them the overcut is obviously the best thing.
Yep.
And by the way, pointing out, Black Sheep got a stop and go because he sped into the pit lane.
Oh.
So that would have hurt his chances of trying for the top 5, 6 possibly.
Yep. Wilster has actually opted for the 2 stop here, whereas Black Sheep is sticking to the 1 stop onto the hards. So Wilster needs to get past soon, but importantly, Black Sheep will not have to serve that 5 seconds, and he can carry on till the end of the race, pending any safety car.
And pointing out Acid has retired. One of the Ferrari boys is out of the race.
Ooh, a
That's
little bit
some
of a
touchy
scuffle there.
moves.
I was keeping an eye on Kaushik during the opening stages. He was really struggling with those hard tires, just picking up a couple of penalties as well by exceeding track limits, just not being able to get a handle on the car with those on those cold hard tires. But now he seems to be coming into his own, and Prakhar, who was challenging for
Prakhar
the
makes a
position all the
mistake.
time, will lose out. Yep, mistake from Prakhar there.
Yeah, Prakhar will not
Well,
be happy.
them fighting each other at this point. Sorry, Mara. But them fighting at this point is only gonna hamper their chances of going any more higher in the field because they're killing their tires as well.
Yep. Just news at the front. Propi and Helium have reacted. Prakhar gets back through, but he loses it a bit on the exit, and I think that's gonna prompt Kaushik to come back at turn 1. He goes down the inside with DRS open. Probably will have the move done before the braking zone, and great move by the Racing Point.
It's just a little bit of mind games there between the two drivers, just giving Prakhar that feeling that he's gotten the move done, then coming back right at him.
Yep. To be honest,
And it's
these two-
to be honest, I couldn't care about the long run. Long run right now. I'm just really enjoying this fight. This is some great wheel-to-wheel racing by both drivers.
And
that's gonna be a
Wilster and
constant.
Black Sheep have had an incident, a small incident. They're off the track at the moment.
Ooh, a couple of drivers getting very, very elbows out already.
Yep. Black Sheep did not need to lose any more time, but it is what it is. They've lost 4 seconds to the likes of Propi and Helium. Wilster gets back through, but Black Sheep will really have to stay within his DRS in order to get pulled into Propi and Helium.
Yeah, and also that he's on the hards, so it'll take a few laps for him to get up to temperature and warm up those tires and get back to consistent racing lap times. Sorry.
Yep. Just a quick pace update at the front. Myth has right now pulled out of DRS from Tanish and is actually the fastest man in the top 3 right now. He's closed in just half a tenth, or about a tenth in the last lap to Eccentric, but that's not going to be. Eccentric's not going to be too happy with that. He's probably going to put in the next couple of laps, probably by lap 12, onto the hard tires to try and open up the gap to Myth to cover him in the second stint. But Myth is closing the gap right now, and this is not what Eccentric would have wanted.
Absolutely, and considering that Myth will have much better tires, Myth and even Tanish, for the matter of fact, will have much better tires at that point of time towards the end of the race. Eccentric is in a compromised position at the moment. But all the hard runners now have an important stint, or towards the end of this stint, the second half of their first stint basically, they have to keep it clean, get in the lap times and be consistent to maximize this strategy's output.
This is going to be a constant battle throughout this race. Both these drivers starting on the same tires, being on the same strategy, and one could say that they are roughly on the same pace. I think that's going to be an important battle going forward, especially if these guys, the hard runners right now, are in with a chance of finishing on the podium. Prakhar does get past Kaushik eventually.
But Prakhar goes wide again.
Goes wide.
This is the battle of cat and mouse right now.
Yeah, they seem to be.
Pace, yeah. Prakhar seems to be carrying a lot of pace right now, but just can't seem to make the move stick. As I think Kaushik may have made a mistake there. A little oversteer coming out of the turn as well.
Yep, I'm going to jump on board with Helium because he's right now on the back, and this is effectively net P1, provided they are faster on track than Eccentric at this point. I'm not really certain of what the lap times are, but they were P1 and 2 when they went into the pits.
I mean, Eccentric, if he pits now, comes out roughly behind Wilster, just behind Wilster, I think, would be where he's coming out. So it's going to be interesting to see how he's going to fight back through the field, especially with drivers ahead of him. He'll be pitting onto the hards, and he'll have, as you said, cold tires for the first 2 to 3 laps while they just get up to temperature. So it'll be interesting to see how exactly he manages that.
Yeah, the time lost in the pits, by the way, is 22 to 23 seconds. Pit entry to pit exit. So
Yeah,
yeah,
roughly puts him behind Wolster on coming out if the order remains as it does.
and Prakhar and Kaushik again switching positions, going side by side in that spoon section. And yes, there was space only for one driver to make that exit properly, and Kaushik lost a spot, a place, but he will be getting back on the tail of Prakhar because that's what they've been doing for almost 6 laps now.
Towards the end
Just
of
a
the
little Yep.
nothing. I was just gonna say towards the end of the race, if these drivers are far apart, we'll probably tell ourselves how do we know we're in the good old days before they're over. I'm telling you right now, these are the good old days of this race because this battle is one for the ages.
Absolutely, they're going at it, not backing out. No one's backing out, and importantly, Profi has a 3-second penalty. So did
We're seeing that
Helium.
we the effect of and Prakhar as well with the time penalty. We're seeing those track limits coming into effect now. Drivers taking too much liberty with these track limits, and we're seeing them biting back the track limits, biting back at the drivers. Little update that I just want to give you before we move on from that. And Hydra's had to retire because of a game freezing issue on his side. No real track
That's
issue.
sad.
And
Alright.
he started lagging and teleporting and losing positions to cars behind him, so he had to pull out of the race.
That's unfortunate. I mean, the Ferrari boys look quite strong. He would have been right in the mix of these two at the moment with his teammate. Maybe a double-headed arrow from Ferrari towards the single racing point would have helped. Who knows? It's something we can only talk about now.
Yep, as we see that Baby Sonoda has gotten ahead of Charles Leclerc, who had to pit very very early, and Charles Leclerc seems to be coming back at Baby Sonoda right now. Can you get
Oxygen as well is right on their tail.
probably the best view of this fight?
Yes.
Kaushik and Prakhar have gone at it yet again.
And Eccentric has
Eccentric has pitted, but
uh,
he's come onto the back of Prakhar right now. He needs to get through this group. But crucially, Eccentric has come out ahead of Propi and Helium.
Yep.
but not much. And Propi and Helium are on 4-lap old hards. That means they must be up to temperature and quite racy on those tires. Whereas Eccentric has to get those tires up to temperatures and start putting the laps in to get consistent. He's made the
Tell you
move
what.
on Kaushik as well.
He doesn't seem to be too affected by those cold tires. Absolutely flying right now past two drivers who have been squabbling for the last couple of laps, but Eccentric making quick work of those two drivers, and you have to think about the fact that they're on much, much warmer tires than he is. So it's going to be interesting for Pro P as he tries to fight past these two guys, because Eccentric seems to be flying right now, even though he's in cold tires.
I have to say that was very mature and championship-worthy driving from Eccentric, because minimizing time loss while making crucial overtakes is the sign of a really, really good driver. So great job by him. Oof.
That was really late.
Yep.
That was really late, but yeah, no issues. Everyone's still racing with 4 wheels on track.
Train forming here between P all the way back from P4 to P9, all driver. Oh no, sorry, P4 to P8, all drivers separated by just 2 seconds, I would say. So DRS train here forming.
Yep. What do you think the pit window is? I think Myth and Tanish should be pitting in the next lap, or at the end of this lap, or the end of the next lap. Because they probably will react to Eccentric any moment now.
Yes, and we have to keep an eye on those lap times, because now I think Eccentric will be stabilizing that gap, and where does that put us in terms of pit stops? So Myth and Tanish, they would come out. Help me out.
Myth and Tanish
My
should
math
come
is
out
low.
just behind Helium and Wilster. So they need to pull out a slightly larger gap But they need to wait. They need to wait before pitting, because if they come out behind this DRS train, that's going to be a bit painful.
But they'll be on fresh mediums, and that's
Yeah.
something which will help them
I think-
through the Sector 3 especially.
Fair enough, but I think the main advantage Myth has especially is the ERS reserve that he has over Eccentric, and Eccentric is right now on the fag end of his ERS reserve. He's down to 15%. So if he wastes too much of that blowing past, as you said, Eccentric goes purple. So great stuff, but yeah, if he blows that while overtaking the DRS train, in that case he will be pretty much screwed for the last part where he needs to catch and overtake the Williams.
Absolutely, and also note on the timings. I think Eccentric has pulled out 2 seconds. Sorry, 1.5 seconds already within the span of 1.5 laps, and Oxygen is retired.
He's retired. Another driver to retire. In fact, all 3 of our retirements so far are in the pits. What do you make of that, guys?
Well, that's tough to call, but does it look like the race was a little too tough for them? Track limits? I don't know, hards being giving less grip and no patience to wait for the hards to get up to temperature? I don't know, there are so many things you can make out of it.
I think that's the Fernando way of retiring, isn't it? Just going to the garage and saying, "No, I can't do anymore." This train right here is going to be very, very important.
Okay,
Because Pro P needs to stay on the back of them.
And quick update: Myth and Tanish have both pitted.
Oh, they have pitted. So
See
this
where
will
they
bring them
come
out. Yes, they will be coming out at the back of the DRS train, if we calculate it right.
Ooh, Brocka very sideways through that corner, that final corner.
Tanish was held up in the pits?
Oh, and
I think yes.
Ooh. Yeah, we've mentioned. Oh, wow. So Myth has come out just behind Pro P. I think he'll get the position on Pro P here as well.
That might
Yep.
have just. That is quite crucial, considering the fact that now he's in P3, and that is all the way to the end of the race. He's gonna go on these tires. So, yeah,
Nice tires
I don't see anything. I don't see anything stopping him from a race win at this point of time. He's even in P2 now.
he's in P2, and now we can monitor the gap directly between
Black
Myth
Sheep
and
is
Eccentric.
retired.
Black Sheep has retired at the start of the straight. I'm going to try and get an onboard from Kaushik.
Kaushik.
You can. Oh, there you can see Black Sheep's. I think there was a contact with another driver which flung him into the wall. You could see the McLaren on the left of your screen. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but
Is there a possibility of getting a replay on that potentially? I don't think that's a.
that's something we're actually working on. But I think we can only see replays of what's going on screen, and we were stuck in the middle of that long DRS train for during that incident. I apologize, folks. I would have loved to bring you that incident.
I think what 8 Cylinders wanted there was an ACC similar replay system where you
Getting
go into the
calculated.
pause menu and you see the replay. Well, Codemasters might be
choosing.
working on it.
Yeah, beggars can't be choosers, unfortunately. We'll just have to suffer for knowing that there was some sort of contact between Black Sheep and another driver. Who was he fighting with roughly at the time of his incident? I think it might have been with Wilster. Yeah, he was just ahead of Wilster, wasn't he?
Yep,
Yes,
yep, he was.
If I'm right, he was behind Wilster. And yeah, that might have.
Maybe
That
maybe
might
it was an incident with Tanish, considering Tanish was on the newer tires. Maybe he was right on.
Let's.
I'm not speculating, but it might have been potentially.
Let me try and
something
get him into the commentary.
I was
box.
gonna just tell that if we could try and
Okay,
get him into. the
Since I'm
comp box.
streaming, could you just ping him to join if possible?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, as we say that, Kaushik gets another 3 seconds. But the two at the front seem to be keeping it clean. Myth has had a bit of an incident somewhere. I don't know exactly where, because he seems to have lost a second or 1.5 seconds to Eccentric, and that could be extremely sort of. It could really pain him if towards the end of this race. Or is maybe the timing that's a little glitched, I'm not sure.
Well, we haven't seen much of a difference in the delta there. We will see, I think, coming across the line here. Just what separates the two drivers.
The last time I did see it, it was 4.7 seconds. Oh, it's 3.8. Okay, we're back. And Myth goes purple. Yeah.
You had nothing to fear there, Mara. Nothing at all.
I was just worried about the game and the lobby glitching out again, but I think this is the battle to watch right now. Is the battle between Propi and Helium. This has been a battle which has been going on pretty much the entire race. The Red Bull versus the Mercedes. Wink, wink, hint, hint. This has been happening the entire season as well in real life.
And we have Black Sheep in the VC. Black Sheep, hello.
What's going on?
Enlighten us on what happened with you.
Oh, I just lost the rear in dirty air coming onto that straight.
Ah, fair enough. I mean, I was getting too eager with my speculations, but I think it was just.
I was just getting a bit frustrated with Mr. Chi, thinking that there's all this battle going on up front and I'm not a part of it. So I had to push, and his mediums were coming to the end, so I thought it was about time to start getting close to him. But yeah, it doesn't work out. I've got to just point out, Adil, I just heard you say battle between Propi and Helium. We had a bit of an understanding pre-race between the soft runners to not fight and pull each other away. So it's not exactly a battle that's been going on from the start.
Well, you just burst my bubble, but okay, fair enough. At least there's a battle going on right now, because
There's a battle going on right now.
the gloves are off, and Prakhar is joining this. So Prakhar on 17 lap old hard tires is actually keeping pace with the likes of Propi and Helium right now. That being said, just a quick pace update. Myth is down to 2.6 seconds at the front. What a drive from the Haas. Black Sheep, what are your predictions?
I think it's going to be with Myth, unless there's a safety car, which might again play in the hands of Prakhar, as it did last week at Bahrain. But I do think that Prakhar might just pay probably this lap, if not this one, then next one, go on to the softs.
Yeah. Oh, you think he's? Yeah, I think a hards to soft does make the most sense. But has he lost too much time, do you feel, to the cars in front and behind?
He's still going to come out P7, isn't he? Even if he pits now.
I think he'll come out behind Kaushik.
P7 or P8, and he'll probably get P8 at least, and try and make a charge from there.
I just noticed the chasm of the gap that exists between Kapil and Kaushik.
Yep.
Yep.
You can see the benefit of the DRS train. I mean, Kaushik not quite on the DRS train just yet, but you can see that DRS train is very slowly pulling away as a result.
Yep.
We have totally. I mean, Tanish had a penalty to serve in the pits during his pit stop, but now he's also on similar pace or similar tires as Myth. So he just made the move on Prakhar, and I'm guessing he's going to make quick work of the guys in front of him, Helium and Propi as well. But let's see if his tires are going to help him over here.
I don't think he's going to be able to get through on the straight, because he's actually struggling on ERS. He's down to 20%, and Helium is sitting pretty at 65. So I'm not sure if it's going to be as straightforward. But yes, he does have a huge pace advantage based on tires alone.
Mara, just something I'm pointing out from the chat. People want to see the penalties that each driver is carrying. So if
let's show us. Yeah, there we go. So Propi has 6 seconds. Helium has 3. Tanish has kept it clean. Prakhar has 3 seconds, and yeah, just take a look at the rest. But in terms of this DRS train, it's almost going to be 3 while Tanish tries the outside. This is not going to be a wise move. Can you see if he's got damage?
No, he does not have damage.
No, I don't think he has been damaged now.
Okay.
And I'm guessing even Propi doesn't have any damage. They managed to keep themselves off each other.
Hard but clean.
But definitely
3 into
Propi
1.
would have. Oh, and next to go.
That was
tough.
yeah.
That was tight.
Tanish is really flirting with that front wing of his. Or the diffuser of Propi's car. I don't. Sorry, can you repeat that, Cylinders?
I was saying he has a death wish right now if he's driving like that. He's got a lot of pace, but he seems to be wanting to be a little too hurried into all those overtakes. So
I can understand his frustrations because P1, P2 are pulling away, and that's where he thinks he belongs because these two guys, Helium and Propi, on old hards, they're probably just pulling each other away in DRS, and he's probably just stuck behind them. So I can understand a bit of desperation from his end.
Yeah, but at the same time, he doesn't have penalties. He knows the two drivers in front do have penalties. And let's be honest, I think the battle for P1 and 2, I'm going to probably go on to that because Myth is now within DRS range.
This is a feisty battle as well.
I think Danish is making another move down at the end of the straight.
Propi has his elbows out as well.
You can just see how much more speed Tanish has on throttle. And as I say that, he go in front of Propi just before the right-hander? Yes, he does. Propi switches back to the inside. Not able to get the move done, and Tanish finally consolidates that P4. And now he's off behind Helium.
But important to note, his ERS is bad.
But let's be
He
honest,
has a
once he gets to
Completely depleted.
Yeah, once he gets past, if he manages to get past Helium at all, and I don't think Helium can come back at him if he's ahead through Sector 3, because those medium tires will have a huge pace advantage through Sector 3 especially.
we also have to take into account the fact that Helium is carrying a 3-second penalty right now, which will play into Tanish's favor if he can get within 3 seconds of Helium.
Well, all of that stays on the fact, or rests on the fact that Tanish doesn't get a penalty, and let's hope he keeps it clean.
Can I just make it slightly more exciting for everybody? Both Eccentric and Myth are on 2 warnings each.
So it's about who pulls the trigger first. And yeah, Myth is on his tail, and they're going down this second short straight to the flat right.
Yes, to turn 13.
P1.
Yes.
And Myth has taken the lead. Temporarily, but he has taken the lead.
How's their ERS looking?
Both
Well,
of
Eccentric is on a single-digit ERS. They're on similar ERS, I would say.
Yeah, they are about the same right now. It's actually go time for Myth. He needs to break that DRS because if Eccentric has the ability to conserve for even a few laps, I think once the tire advantage goes away by lap 25 or so, Eccentric would be able to come back if Myth is not able to stay or to break that DRS.
And Tanish looks quite racy. He is on the tail of Helium. He was literally touching his diffuser out of the final corner, making the move from the outside.
It's a risky place to be on the outside of turn 1 there.
Yeah, that shows
He
it.
does have to concede the position in the end.
And that brings Propi back into the picture. So Tanish is in a weird situation right now between two hard runners. He's in a sandwich.
We do have to consider also that Propi is carrying quite a bit of penalties, 6 seconds, but it does make it more interesting for us because we get to see a little bit more fighting up front.
Oh,
Multiple changes.
Tanish really trying every trick in the book right now. I think he should just sit back for a few laps and come back at Helium once he's got some more ERS saved up. But he doesn't give a shit about that. He's down to 0. He's down to 0 and he is going for it. Around the outside, is he going to switch back to the inside? Yes, he is. Helium tries to stay narrow, but Tanish does have the inside line, does have the track position, leaves room on the outside and gets it. Oh, wait, no. What just happened?
And he's fighting back. There's fantastic racing between these two drivers right now. Fantastic racing.
There's some wheel banging, but that shouldn't be. I mean, without wheel banging, it's not really racing, I would say, in my opinion. And yeah, back at it again.
I believe the margin so fine. The wheel banging is part and parcel of the package, I think.
And he's
Tanish
got the
goes.
inside, and yes, he's made it stick,
Fantastic
but
move there for Tanish in the end.
he's able to go much later on the brakes, and I don't know if that is these few couple of corners are enough for him to pull out a small gap down the long back straight, because Helium has a much better. Oh, I'm
Also-
sorry. Helium has used all of his ERS in terms of defending from Tanish.
Yeah,
Yep.
Propi
So
should probably be
Helium
able to get that
is
position before.
Tanish has almost
And-
gone into a different county to break the to break the slipstream.
And Propi, on the contrary, has been a silent line waiting to pounce on the opportunity, and now he has 50% of ERS, so he's going to use all of that and make the move on Helium
Oof.
down the
One sec,
inside.
yeah.
Some touching. Where's Helium? He's back on track.
He's still there. He's still there. He's still there. He's on the left.
For a second, he just went off the screen, and I was like, where did he go?
I think F1 needs.
Guys,
a
eccentric
couple
has
of
picked up.
okay.
Eccentric has picked up a 3 second. So as long as Myth keeps it clean for the last 2 laps, I don't think track position is really going to matter too much.
Yeah, and it's just 2 laps. I was just being too optimistic. I was looking at Tanish's time to eccentric, and the penalty, it's just too big. Tanish isn't going to make up 10 seconds, 11 seconds within 2 laps. So,
Yep. I just want to say that
Yeah.
there's a battle between Wilster and Procker going on right now. Both of them on fresh soft tires, and this is probably going to be a battle right down to the wire, because Wilster is running out of time. I'm not sure if Procker just overtook him or not, but Wilster will probably need to make the move before Procker catches Kaushik.
I think Wilster has been keeping DRS to Procker for the last 6-7 laps or so, since they both jumped onto the softs. There hasn't really been any change in positions between them.
Yeah, but crucially, Procker is catching Kaushik. So if Wilster doesn't overtake him before that, Wilster will be have to wait another few laps or another lap or 2.
I don't see any issues in Wilster making that move, because Procker has depleted his ERS almost, and Wilster has almost 50% ERS, and yeah, that should help him in his next chance. I guess the start finish straight should be where we see a move. Helium is still on the back of Propi.
Guys,
and-
Myth has just picked up a 3 seconds, so now, and Eccentric is within 6 tenths going into the last lap or 2, but neither of them have
Also, Baby Tsunoda has just made a move for P10. There's a battle there between him and Aditya down for the final points position. Shouldn't be too much of a battle because of the penalties for Aditya, but you know they are still fighting for duking it out. I think
on the outside. I'm sorry.
Sorry about that, folks.
Yeah, he is sticking it on the outside of Spoon and Aditya as well. They went wheel to wheel through the whole section over there.
I'm going to go on board with Eccentric because he's now 3 tenths behind Myth going into the final sector. This is this could go down right to the last corner, folks. I know Helium is probably closer to Propi, but this is the battle for the lead. So I hope you'll excuse me staying on board. But just to give you a quick update, Procker has gotten ahead of Kaushik at long last. That battle maybe has come to an end, but if Kaushik doesn't come back at him again. But I say that.
the gap's reduced and Kaushik's taking the position again. Yep.
Yep, he has. It's a perfect. Yeah.
Sorry.
Wolf's
Sorry,
is
go
the
ahead,
only
Mara.
driver right now. Wolf's is the only driver in the top 10 right now who hasn't picked up a penalty, and it should be interesting to see how many positions he gains. I don't think it should be too many, but he will
Probably
gain a couple
just a 1, I think.
Oh, fair enough.
1 or 2, I think.
But he's kept it fairly clean. It's very impressive.
Well, I'll just talk about that P6, 7, 8 battle, and Wilster has just made the move on Kaushik because he has 50% ERS, where the other two don't have almost depleted it. And I'm guessing Wilster might make the move on Procker as well in the next in the DRS straight. But the battle for the lead is getting quite feisty, and now we're towards the last sector, and
Both of them are completely out of ERS. This is just going to be the ICU working for the last sector.
is eccentric gonna? Oh, did I just see that?
Yeah,
glitch?
Myth did glitch out shortly, but I do know he's on hotspot for this race because his internet died earlier. Wilster gets ahead of Prakhar. Quick update. But as we say that, this exhilarating race is coming down to the last corner. Will Eccentric go for a dive bomb? I think he thinks better of it. And
He
that's...
still has DRS.
But he's not close enough.
Helium has spun out, guys.
Oh,
I think no more I think PP takes another position, but yeah, Helium has spun out to P5 right now.
but he had a big enough gap to P6, and I think that's fine. He's gonna finish in the place he is finishing on track if he doesn't have too many penalties.
Yeah, he's got 6 seconds. I think it's going to be touch and go to Wilster. And Wilster gets ahead.
Oh,
And Wilster actually comes home with the fastest lap of the race as well. So great job by the two Red Bulls in P4 and P5. Either way, I need to catch my breath, folks. That was...
Definitely did not see that coming at the beginning of the race, seeing Pro P start on pole, to see 3 drivers that we have on the podium right now be there. It's definitely surprising.
I think it's to that point. I think it's definitely a bit surprising, but given the fact that Pro P, starting on the soft tires is never the optimal strategy over here. Sorry, this got my mind for a second. Aditya finishes ahead of Baby Sonoda, but Sonoda gets him ahead, or gets him on penalties. And coming in P12 is Madhav just showboating a little bit for the stream. But yeah, I think coming back to my point, the soft strategy is never going to be optimal. And I think that showed today. That being said, Pro P and Wilster certainly maximized their result, and not too bad by Helium either until the last lap.
Yeah, fantastic driving. A bit unlucky there on the last lap with the spin that he had. But yeah, great drive from him. And more importantly, a great drive from the podium sitters today. I think the strategy worked out well for them. And they just maximized from they maximized on the fact that the drivers ahead of them were a not so optimal strategy.
well, trying to get the podium finishers into the VC. So
But while we do
podium
that, Cylinders, do you want to walk us through the final positions, final standings?
Well, Myth, after starting in P15 on the grid, completes the race in P1. Great points on the board for the Haas team. Harry will be happy with that as well. Eccentric finishes in P2 for Williams after starting P7. IRC Danish with a fantastic late surge from a little further back in the pack, and ends up getting P3 and is third in the final standings. No more PP after starting on pole, finishes in P4. Bit unlucky with the strategy, but he does finish, and good points on the board for the Red Bull team as well. Wilster in P5, Helium in P6, Brucker in P7. Good points on the board for the Ferrari team as well. Unfortunate that Anhydrous did lose or did have to DNF earlier on in the race, or chose to retire from the race, but that was unfortunate. Kaushik in P8 was constantly embroiled in a battle. Kapil in P9. Baby Sonoda finishes the top 10. Aditya in P11 and Shalalak in P12, and everyone from there on back did not finish.
Yep. Fantastic return to the racing scene by Tanish, because he's actually give me 1 second while I switch to our podium screen. But that's actually great. He'll be very happy with that return to racing in that Alfa Romeo.
I will
Yes.
let the two of you guys kick off the podium interviews then, because I need to go get myself a little bit of water.
Yep, we have Myth, Eccentric, and Tanish. We have already gotten all the podium sitters in the voice chat with us. So, folks, let me start off by saying that was an exceptional race to watch. Myth, Eccentric, that battle is probably one which is going to play in the IRC highlight reels for many seasons to come. But starting with from the race winner, Myth, you started P15 after being disconnected and probably giving up on the concept, on the thought of racing at all. But you managed to come back. You put that out of your mind. Started on the hard tires. How do you feel the race went for you? Of course, you won, but what was going on in your mind from the start? What was your strategy and mindset?
Yeah, so I guess I wasn't even going to race for a minute there, but luckily I was able to make it, and I was actually really happy with my performance, especially like my consistency today. Every lap was within a tenth. Obviously, it got a bit quicker on the hards as fuel became less. So in that aspect, I was really happy, and I think it was just such a good race to watch as well. Like two different strategies, eccentric on medium to hards, and I'm on hards to medium, and the last stint was just fantastic. Me closing him down, and by the end, like from 25th lap, he had my tires were gone, and he again started coming back. And obviously, both of us got that penalty. I was just hanging around with two warnings for pretty much the entire race. I'm not sure how, but yeah. And finally, after I think lap 26, I gave myself a penalty and almost thought I gave it up, but I managed to hold eccentric up. So that was very nice. Yes.
Congratulations, that was a fantastic win. P15 to P1, Hamilton kind of comeback in Imola, if I may say so. But yeah, moving on to eccentric. I mean, you probably saw Myth behind you at the start, starting from the back on the grid. What was going through your mind at that point? Tell me, walk us through your race, from your first stint sitting behind those soft drivers. I mean the drivers on softs. Excuse me for that. So what is your mindset going through that?
I'd like to congratulate Amit for the really good drive and punish for podium. I'm sorry for the background noise. I'm very sorry if there is any background noise. When I saw Mitch in 14th or 15th, I was like, okay, I mean, I have a chance at a win. Then there was a huge incident in turn one, and I just avoided. And when I came out of it, I saw Mitch right behind me. And then I realized, okay, this is not good because, I mean, the hard medium strategy is I mean, if you're close to the medium and soft runners, it is the better strategy. So, I mean, I expected him to come back towards the end. But then after he overtook me, I got 3 seconds and I had basically given up. Then when I saw he also got 3 seconds, I threw everything at it. Like I was zero ERS the whole time. Like I threw absolutely everything at it, but like just that dirty air before the DRS zone.
Yeah, I don't know if you know. I don't know if you know this, but you and Myth were basically mirroring ERS for the last 7-8 laps. It was absolutely amazing to watch. Myth had more ERS when he overtook you, but after that, it was just a mirror image of both of your energy bars. But if I may move on to Tanish for a quick second, Tanish, return to racing, podium in that iconic Alfa Romeo driving suit. How do you feel to be back? Do you feel you maximize your race result, or did you leave anything on the table?
I would not say it's a maximized race result, but I am happy. It was quite simple race from me. Thankfully, I avoided the carnage at the first lap. But I may have been close to the top two if I was not to battle the drivers on the fourth and fifth. But it was quite simple race. At least I didn't spin. It was a great race. Yeah.
I think your standards are little looking at how quick you were today. I think your standards are a bit higher than not spinning. So that was genuinely a joy to see that battle with Propi, you and Helium. Shame that Helium spun off though. Either way, I think that congratulations on the podium and on the return. Coming back to the race winner for a second. Were you aware of the traffic behind you when you pitted? Because I think you came out just about behind the Haas driver, if I'm not the Haas driver, sorry, behind the Mercedes of Helium, if I'm not wrong. And you really made quick work of them. But were you keeping that in your mind for the pit window at all?
Honestly, I didn't really know what I was going to expect because I think I was in first, and all the Propi and the other cars, Black Sheep, etc., were like fifth onwards, I think. So I couldn't really see the gap behind them. So my basically, the MFD which says when you pit, you rejoin at a position. So that said fifth, and I really didn't have any clue what the gap was in front or behind them. So I
Yep.
just had to pit, and the reason I pitted in lap 15 and not a bit later maybe was so that I could get as much laps on the mediums, so I would have more time to catch up and be on the better tire, and that's the reasoning behind that.
Yep. Yeah, I think that that's awesome. Eccentric, probably one last question for you before I open it to Cylinder and Harry as well. Um, you were battling the soft runners for a while. At any point, did you feel you would just wait them out, wait for them to pit? Because we did see you making a few moves and burning a bit of your ERS. Did you, at any point, feel you needed to stay back and just wait for them to pit and take, and the race would come into your control? Or were you so conscious of Myth and Tarnish behind you on the hard tires that you sort of immediately gunned it the moment you could?
Yeah, as soon as I saw, I mean, it's exactly what you said, the latter part. As soon as I saw Tanish and Amit, especially Amit right behind me, I had to get past the softness because if he was just about closing like 1/10, and then with my DRS, I would open up the gap again. So it was really close. And when I saw that he was right behind, I had to use the ERS and try to get past as many soft runners as I could. And I think I did get past like two or three, but yeah, it was just a little bit too left.
Yep, I think the finish was as close as it gets, so I think you both are probably gonna have the gloves off in the next race of the season. But that's all the questions from me, folks. Cylinders, Harry, do you have any other questions for the team, for the podium sitters?
Well, congratulations to all of them, and GG's to Haas. Mitt did a great job for us. But I want to ask Tanush about his battle with Helium and Propi. If I'm not wrong, it was really feisty. It was a three-way battle in most parts till you went past Propi, if I'm right first. So Tanush, over there, you were weaving all over the place on the straight. So what exactly were you trying to do there, switching lines?
I mean, I was just trying to get the perfect line. I was trying to confuse them. I'll overtake. I'll dive bomb, but to what should I say? Like to spoil their line. But yeah, I mean, I had to pass them because I was battling the top two at that moment. I wanted to close the gap there, but I literally have to use all of my like car battery and the tires to just overtake them. So yeah, that was a bit unlucky, but it was a great battle. I really enjoyed it.
Excellent. So that's all from me. I just want to ask Tanish how that battle was. And congratulations to all three of you. Eccentric, great job from you as well.
Thank you.
Anyway, please leave your vote for driver of the day from the commentary box, though. 8 Cylinders and Harry, who is your driver of the day? Mine is Amit, coming from 15th to P1. Great drive from the Haas. What about you, Harry, and 8 Cylinders?
Well, for me, though, I want to give my Haas boy the driver of the day. I think for me, it's Tanish, considering how he's come back from a break. And, considering we were thinking he might be a bit rusty, etc., he came all the way from the back and he's gotten a P3, a podium. So he's my driver of the day for today.
Yep, I agree with you. Didn't really, I mean, for me, it's still Myth, but I didn't expect such a strong performance from somebody a bit rusty.
Yeah, for me
And
as well. I think it's Tanish for driver of the day. I think taking time away from F1 for a while and then coming back to it and being able to keep up with the pace of the guys who have been doing this week in, week out is a pretty amazing feat. But also, I would say congratulations to the other two drivers as well. Didn't get a chance to say that earlier. Well done, guys.
Thank you.
Yep. Anyway, signing off for today, folks. Please do tune in for Tier 2 and Tier 3 tomorrow evening. And have a great rest of your day.